Hey everybody, welcome to Act 3. It is Monday. It is Family Day today. I know this kind of dates the program for when we do rebroadcasts, but it's okay because every day should be Family Day. Last week on the program, Shawn and Kari-Lyn Owen were sharing some information about how to live better lives. I don't traditionally, as you all know, I don't traditionally bring guests back so soon after a broadcast, and certainly not back to back. But this time I really felt the necessity to do so because there was so much more that we wanted to share, particularly this new year. And as things are still changing with COVID and, we're all climatizing to different things. So I'd like for you all, please, to welcome back to our program, Shawn and Kari-Lyn Owen. Hello, people. How are you?
Hello, doing awesome. Thanks.
Great to be here again.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thanks for coming back. When we left the program, we had so much going on. So how about we just recap a little bit? Can you remind our audience some of the things we talked about last week, in case they didn't tune in? Of course they did, right, everybody? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I think the big thing, last week, hey, that was a long time ago. We're really talking about the idea of just how to live our best life, so like really taking care of ourselves and understanding that in today's environment, especially in today's environment, that there are ways to actually take care of us proactively. So like taking care, mentally, spirituality, nutritionally, like looking after our bodies and really just being proactive about everything as opposed to being reactive when we get fall ill, or if something was to happen, like fear around this COVID, or, all of these different topics. It's just like, how can we put ourselves in the best shape as we get older, not just within COVID times, but any times, so that we can live a long, healthy, and active life. I know that Kari-Lyn and I have always had this vision of living what we call a perennial lifestyle. So ever evolving, ever blooming, so that as we age, age is a number, and we look at, say, our parents' generation, and the reasons for not being active, I'm getting older, and, the nicks and the bumps and all the noises that we make, and, I can't go hiking, or the reasons I can't travel, or all these things we really want in our life. What's good for us is that we dispel those myths that actually getting older is doesn't mean that you have to do less. It means that we can do more, right, with the time we have. But our bodies have to function in a way and be healthy in a way so that we can actually do that.
Well, and I love the analogy of the perennial, because I feel like it's just ever blooming, and that's what we feel, that we're always growing, and there's seasons. So sometimes we get cut right back down only to come back stronger the next year, right? And so this analogy, when we first heard about that, we really could resonate in how it applied to our life. And that's what we love sharing with other people, that we can be the perennials. We can, and through our seasons of growth, we can just bloom stronger, more brilliant, more beautiful. And then there will be times again where we have to, cut back and, and maybe even lie dormant for a bit before we start to bloom and blossom again.
I absolutely love that analogy, you guys. I love that analogy. I enjoy gardening. I'm not great at it. I kill just about everything that I put in the ground, but I no longer buy annuals. I only buy perennials, for the very reason that as you propagate them, as you work with them, yes, you're quite right. There are some seasons when things work really well and some seasons not so much. When we last spoke, there were, we talked about, our bodies holding some of our memories too, right? And that sometimes our bodies don't function the way we want them to, because we aren't dealing with all of the things that we need to keep us on that healthy plane. I recall us talking about the pyramid, right, of health and old-fashioned nutrition, which just isn't the same. As we were moving through the conversation, though, what I recognized was that you guys were the pillars of a kind of a 5-system, 5-method way of living. And I was hoping that you would share that with our listeners for Act 3 today.
Yeah, I think that for us, there's lots of different aspects to, like, we did talk about the mental side in depth last time. What we didn't get time to talk about is really the nutritional side. Like, how can we feed our body? And really look at 5 key ways to create overall healthy well-being,
Mhm.
You know, we're not talking about having to have the razor sharp abs and the super big pipes and, you know, like being, you know, the model person, but how are we able to balance it out and live wellness or an overall level of well-being? And we have five areas that we really focus on with our customers, you know, when it comes to being proactive and looking at nutrition. And we'd love to be able to share those, because no matter what you do, if you incorporate some of these things, you're going to be able to manage that in your life. And it's we find that people are very successful if they address these things.
Well, and if one of those areas is missing, it doesn't mean that they can't achieve overall well-being, but it does make it more challenging,
Sure.
right? So if one of those key areas, if they're struggling with, that's when people start to fall off, and that's where people start to quit or give up hope, right? And so there's lots of things that people can do, but again, just for duplication purposes and being able to share, we simplify, and there's 5 key points, and that's what, I think that's what we found has been working really well, and providing a simple system that people can follow and feel really great about, feeling like they can achieve what they set out to. And we were talking just before we hit the record on, it's those small steps that people can do every day. It's not the big overwhelming, oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
I gotta do everything and change everything all at once.
Yeah.
I just feel like that is too much, too fast for people to be able to stay consistent and to really hold the test of time. Right. So if it's just tweaks and small changes, small steps over a long period of time, that's where people can feel they can really get into it, and they can change their whole lifestyle just by making some of those initial changes. So
Absolutely. A little, oops, there's one of the dogs. Again, if you have just tuned into Act 3, this is Zoom. Zoom means barking happens, bells ring. Our apologies for that. I'm going to jump over right away. By the way, people, if you have a chance to grab a piece of paper and a pen, now's a good time to do so, because when we break down these 5, you might want to take some notes, but you're certainly going to want to get the information from Shawn and Kari-Lyn on how you can connect with them later on in the program. And if you've just tuned in, you're listening to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. So Shawn, and Kari-Lyn, whichever one of you wants to start first, why don't we talk about one of the first 5 and let's unpack that just a bit, shall we?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So why don't we talk about one of the things that one of the leading causes of illness and disease in our society, and that would be stress. So we talked about ways to eliminate stress in the last show, taking time and really mentally processing. But how about, what if there was a way to nutritionally help manage the impact of stress as well? And
I'm all over that.
Right?
Well, because the reality is that most of us are under significant amounts of stress, whether or not it's now because of COVID or just on the everyday business of living. And very often nutritionally, we miss out on how to nurture that stress.
Yeah. And just a disclaimer. So Kari-Lyn and I are not doctors. We're not dietitians. We're not nutritionists. We've just learned through the process of experience. And obviously being involved in a nutritional based company, we've heard and done a lot of research in this and practiced it ourselves. So everything that we're sharing, do your research, and look into this. We invite more research and more looking in, but we're just going to talk general concepts. So, when you look at stress, that whole idea of fight or flight, right? We've had it since the dawn of time, that response of fight or flight. Lots of times it was for hunting and, running away from animals and all the rest of it, but we still have that same response. And in today's fast-paced world, lots of it is mental. Like, we're working harder, working longer. We have different pressures, whether they be financial or whatever it may be. Stress has an impact on our body because it releases a hormone called cortisol. So cortisol is a little bit the enemy, right? And cortisol wreaks havoc inside our body if we don't use it, because back in the day, we used it to get out of town when we needed to get out of town, right?
Even not just back in the day, things have changed a lot since you and I were kids, right? And let's face it, we were outside running and playing and doing things outside. Now the kids are sitting in front of computers and texts and tablets, and they're not moving. So that cortisol is sticking with them as young people. And I think older adults are doing the same.
Yeah, exactly. So if we know that exists and it's in our body, is there a way to help manage the negative effects of it? And we understand now, and it's been around for thousands of years. the use of adaptogens in our diet. So adaptogens, if you think of it, they're herbs and botanicals that are naturally occurring. Ashwagandha is one that's probably the most popular one that you'll see in some of the health food stores, but there's a blend of adaptogens. There's a whole bunch of them. And they actually work to get...
Sorry to do this to you. I hate to do this, but could you break down? I heard you say that it was herbs and such, but could you really break down what exactly is an adaptogen?
So if you think about the root word of it, an adaptogen adapts, right? So these herbs and botanicals have been used in Chinese and Indian, like Ayurvedic medicinal purposes. So if you went to a health food store, a Chinese medicine store, you'd be able to find adaptogens very readily. And the information now is very available on the internet. And what they do is they basically, when we ingest these adaptogens through a supplement or a tonic or some, you can make it yourself if you boil the roots down, because they're, again, plants, they go into your body and they adapt to your physical or your mental response to stress. So when the cortisol is released, basically what happens is the adaptogens help calm and support the negative response. So like, for example, what will happen in today's world is that for us, if we don't use the cortisol up, we'll produce body fat. For men, it's right around the waistline where it pools, and for women, it's kind of hips to the waist. And that's the result of not being able to utilize this. When we can help manage it, we can help eliminate or reduce the amount of body fat that's being created. It will also look like, you can sleep better. It'll also look like you have more energy. And for like physical, like for people who are exercising, it can help work you through your exercise, whether that be hiking or working out, and it can help you recover faster. So the physical adaptation of these adaptogens will be inside your body to do exactly whatever your body needs. So if the adaptogens were inside your body, Kathy, they would respond differently than inside Kari-Lyn's body, Ted's body, or Bill's body, or Susie's body. Everybody's body is different and in an environment unique to themselves. But the adaptogens are beautiful because they go in and they work perfectly for whatever your body needs at the time.
So is there a measurement that one would know to take? When I think of adaptogens and I hear you say ashwagandha, I can't pronounce it, is that true? But ashwagandha. I love the sound of it. I really do. I have to tell you, I did try it once and I felt, I only tried it once. I have some in my cupboard. I really should pull it out again, especially after this conversation. But the first time I took it, I felt a little high. Which I thought was strange for you know what I mean? Like for me, it was just a weird side effect. Having said that, because of my condition, I have huge cortisol levels right now. I have a nice Buddha belly, baby.
Yeah, again, everybody's going to have a different. I haven't heard that before. In terms of, I'm understanding what you mean by high. I'm assuming, but I have never felt that using the products. I haven't. But again, people will say different things because their bodies react differently. So, I don't personally feel like I sleep better on it, but some people say that they do. I sleep fine. Yeah. I've never had an issue.
A friend of mine just passed away from cancer, and his wife and he were on it for years. And they found it to have incredible effects for their cancer, or for his cancer, but for her in the way for her in managing what she was experiencing as a caregiver. And so I heard there being really positive effects of it. What are some of the other, what did you call them again?
Adaptogens.
Adaptogens. What are some of the others besides that people have tried or have considered?
Well, I know. Yeah, I was just going to get the list of the ones that we use. I'm not sure if I have that right on hand, but
sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus there with that question.
Actually, it's a great question, but actually, just to speak to what you talked about as a caregiver, like last night I got a call from my mom's care home, and she's having an emergency situation going on, and they were going to bring her by ambulance to the emergency room. The first thing I reach for is my liquid gold of adaptogens, because it triggers a response within me when I get those calls. Like, you know, that my mom is sick, or that, you know, this is happening, the chaos and this like fight or flight thing that comes up for me, I just breathe. I take this adaptogen drink because I know it's going to help manage my stress so that I can actually show up in a way that I want to be there to support her. So, because my initial, like that knee-jerk response is like, okay, chaos. I'm like flying out the door. I'm just like, you know, bat out of hell, like trying to get to the hospital, and I'm just in a flurry. And this is just like, okay, no, like I'm not my best when I'm in that state. So the very first thing that I do, I take it every day, but I get the call and this is what I do. It's my little thing. I've learned over time how my body responds to it. And then I'm able to calmly drive and safely drive to the hospital. And I get to be in the best form that I can be to support wherever I'm needed. And I just find that it makes such a difference. So I can use it in that circumstance, yet I can also have my adaptogen just before I go to the gym. So I want to be able to like create that environment and that like that next push. I will be stressing my body at the gym. So this is going to help to manage that. And I can also recover with adaptogens after I get back from the gym. So the usage of it is incredible from what, you know, that what we're able to, how we can apply it into our everyday life.
I'm going to throw a couple things in because again, back when we started, there was very little, it wasn't cachet. It wasn't really sexy for adaptogens. You couldn't find a lot of information. Now, you know, like with anything, people are more interested. You can find some things. So to be considered an adaptogen has to be one, non-toxic to the body. Okay. Two, it has to have broad benefits that'll help boost the immune system, which is really good. And three, which is the one that we've been talking about, it has to be proven to be able to provide balance inside the body. So balance being your stress response, okay? So there is a host of adaptogens, and that's why I didn't want to start talking too scientifically. But if you think of some that are pretty common, ginseng would be an example of a something. Elderberry would be something that's, wolfberry is one, licorice root is one. So like maca is one, reishi, you know, like people use reishi mushrooms, right? Like for boosting the immune system. So rhodiola, like, so that's just a handful of them.
That's
but again,
really great information though. Thank you for doing that, because honestly, I think there are going to be listeners who do know what that is. There's going to be lots that don't. So just having that frame helps so very much.
Yeah, and I would really encourage, like some people will think, well, I heard like the misnomer would be, oh, Shawn said ashwagandha, so that's what I'm going to go do.
Exactly.
Actually, the most powerful thing you could do is get the right blend, not just one, because one will do one certain thing or help the body. But if you can get a nice blend, then you're in really great shape because you're getting the best of all worlds, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where your guys' expertise comes in, is the organization that you work with has proven to be able to help, you know, with the matching of all of these ingredients so that they fit perfectly. And people are not going out and having to do this all themselves, right?
Yeah, we know that it's possible, but it just wouldn't be our style because we like something convenient. So it's like...
Well, and that's it. And at the top of the hour, we talked about a little bit about that convenient piece, you know, and I was kind of underneath, I was thinking, so what do people do when they're under stress? Well, they grab a bag of Doritos, right?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily thinking ashwagandha. They're thinking, you know, I'm going to eat something, or I'm going to drink something. I'm going to go to the pub, or I'm going to smoke some weed, or I'm going to have a gummy, or I'm going to alter my state in some way so that I don't have to face the stress. I don't have to deal with the stress. And therefore, all I do, of course, is, you know, put yourself in a further, you know, go backwards instead of moving forwards.
I think that's such a great, just a great point that you touched on there, because what our body actually is needing and craving in that moment is nutrients, so nutrient density. But what the response that shows up is that comfort, convenience. How do I divert and shift? I don't want to feel this. I want to like, just like take me away from that. So we avoid it. And when our body isn't getting the nutrients that it requires and that it needs to manage these stressful moments or just in our daily life, then cravings set in. And this is where the unhealthy, those habits start to creep in, and we don't even know it sometimes. It just starts like, oh, you know, I kind of feel like that bag of Doritos. Why? Oh, I just have that craving, need something salty or whatever. So what happens when you eat a bag of Doritos? Do you feel satiated? Do you feel great? No, you actually don't. Your
No, most
body's like,
people don't.
no, that's not exactly what I want. Now I want sweet. I feel like the chocolate, that's what I really wanted. So then they continue to skip over to that. And what they're doing is trying to fill the void. And what their body is asking for is nutrients. And what we're supplementing it with is the opposite of nutrients. So we're supplementing it with that comfort. What is going to bring me comfort? Because I deserve it. I feel really crappy right now. So I want to just feel better. And what ends up happening is this downward spiral. So if we're not giving our body the nutrients we're lacking and our body is craving, and we plummet. Right. So that's going to be
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
I
you just segued into number 2.
I was
Which
just going to say, let's move to number 2, because it's a perfect time to shift. And I do know that we have focused a lot on that stress component, but really, I think it's the foundation for so much of what's going on in people's lives, particularly right now. So if we can get you can't just get a handle on stress. It is something you need to work through, and there are forums and there are places and there are things you can do to help with that, but you can't nutritionally destroy your body more by not taking part in looking after yourself from a nutritional standpoint. Let's go to number 2.
Yeah, so they add that nutritional density,
you have to
and and you can jump in anytime, but I'm just passionate about it because I feel, especially with women, that get caught up in counting calories, and what they should be counting is nutrients. It's like, wow, we're counting a number, and we're hoping that number will somehow magically change the number on the scale.
Yes,
and when we sit on it, that's like determining our value and our worth. Like, am I worthy? Oh man, that number isn't showing up the way I want it. What we need to do is erase that whole thinking. It's just like so warped. It's like, count the nutrients. When we give our body the nutrients that it wants, it brings it back into balance. If we have weight to lose, we will lose it. If we have energy to gain, we will gain it. It isn't the number on the scale. That's only one small measurement of the whole picture. How are we feeling? How we talked about joy last time, energy. How am I sleeping? What is my digestion like these days? How are we managing stress? That's all a part of the most important and healthy non-scale victories, right? But for some reason, women especially, but not exclusively, we anchor that to the value of our worth and our identity, that number on the scale. And I want to burn the scale and throw it out, because it doesn't matter. That number on the scale doesn't equal health. Okay. And so I think that it's, so the density, the nutrients that we need to start being aware. So about that, we talked last show about the bowls of spinach, that we would have to eat today. Wasn't it like 53 bowls of spinach to equal the amount of trace minerals and vitamins that was in a bowl of spinach maybe 50 years ago? And so what is happening that is changing the nutrient density in our foods today? And we have to start questioning and looking at, what is happening with the over farming and, the turning over of crops. It's big business, it's industry, it's mass production. So we're killing our soils. We're using things on the soils that will kill the micronutrients. And literally we're getting the food that doesn't have any value. It doesn't have any nutritional value for it. It's not fueling our body and giving it what it needs. And so we need to find alternative ways. Even if I eat clean, and even if I eat organic's better, but it's still missing some key nutrients. And I think this supplementing.
I'm not so sure I even believe in all that organic stuff, I'll be honest with you. Somebody told me once that if you got your food from the States, if it was imported from the US or from Mexico and it was grown organically, when it came across Canadian borders, it was automatically sprayed. Therefore, it was no longer organic. So I struggle with that. I don't know if it's true or not, to be honest with you. And I'm certainly no expert at that, nor would I ever profess to know anything about agriculture and cross-border, contaminants and all that stuff. I don't know a thing. But what I know for sure is, as you pointed out earlier, Shawn, the nutrients that are in the soil, I think it was at the last show, maybe that you had talked about breaking that soil apart. And it's just not that spinach conversation that we had. How many bowls, Kari-Lyn, maybe it was you who had that part of the conversation, but how much are we having to eat now in order to justify or create the nutrients we need in our body so that our body will react appropriately?
I think that's well, no pun intended. That's the thing that's going to be hard for listeners to digest. No
Yeah.
pun intended, right? Like
No pun intended.
it's
I was gonna say you jumped that one. I loved it.
because if we look at like where we're at in our age, we grew up in a world where maybe the nutrition was high in our vegetables and fruits. And the distinction between organic and non-organic, I mean, a fruit is a fruit. The difference being, the first one, let's say that all things were perfect and they weren't sprayed. Let's say it was perfectly organic and perfectly, sprayed with pesticides and herbicides and all of the rest of it. The difference being that we're taking in we ingest the pesticides and the herbicides versus not. But when we look at what Kari-Lyn's been talking about, the nutritional component to it, the lands are stripped of our minerals, vitamins, and trace minerals. That never used to be the case 30, 40 years ago. It just wasn't. So that's why I think it's hard for a lot of our older generations to think about it. I'm very concerned about our next generations because they won't live in a world where they do have that high nutrition. So as us and older are trying to wrap our head around, is this possible? Our kids' generation is just going to be that case where they know and they understand it's not going to come. We need foods for baseline nutrition, but for our vitamins, minerals, and trace minerals, we're starting to understand that we have to take them in from another source. Now we can dispute it and we can ignore it, but all I would ask is that your body is going to be a resume for how it's responding to what is right now. So it's your body or our bodies tell us everything we need to know. Is it happy? And if it isn't happy, there's a reason for it not being happy. So listen to it. Like, what's it needing? Kari-Lyn's talking about, and you were talking about cravings. Cravings are exactly that. It's just asking for nutrition, right? The brain doesn't know what it's missing. It just knows it's missing. So it keeps giving you a craving until you feed it. We find that when we're working with customers, like Kari-Lyn's right, the culture is to diet, the culture is to restrict. And what we see is people will lose weight, but they lose water and they lose lean muscle mass predominantly by restricting their calories. When we work with customers, we're feeding the body dense nutrition. We're not dieting. We don't have that mentality. And what we find with our customers is that if they have to lose weight, they'll lose weight, but they'll lose it in a very healthy way where they maintain their lean muscle body mass. They'll release their body fat. They'll keep the healthy water in, but they're doing it because the nutrition is high, not because the calories are low. And that's what's really important, is that we're able to shift this diet mentality into a nutrition conversation, really feeding. So.
Well, then oftentimes the person who wants to lose weight, we're actually encouraging them to eat more because they've been used to starving themselves and depriving themselves of the nutrients. So it's just redirecting what they're choosing for the nutrition and then being able to flood their body with those nutrients and allowing their body to be the miracle and like come to balance again. And it's awesome to watch happen. It's just like my favorite thing ever.
I completely understand what you're saying. I think that, there's a lot of the old diet mentality was starve yourself, right? The more you didn't eat, and we know science has shown that the more we starve ourselves, the more we're demanding and holding on to the fat stores that we currently have. So it's because our body isn't sure what our body knows what it wants, but we as the human condition are not listening to our body. I'm wondering if we need a new language for the way we're understanding what our body's trying to say to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe calling it something like weight wellness or instead of weight loss. And it's so like,
yeah, I agree.
You said, people might be losing weight or they're looking to lose weight. But again, one of the things we focus on are inches. So let's measure inches because your body's going to transform, but you might be gaining some lean muscle. You actually might be gaining some strength and you're feeling great, but the number on the scale again isn't changing and you feel disheartened. So it isn't the whole story, what's going on. Let's do a whole body analysis and how are we feeling overall? But you did mention something about our fat stores, and I think that would be a great transition again to go into our third point of intermittent fasting. You touched on, people wanting to, or maybe of the diet mentality depriving themselves. And one of the concepts that is coming, is intermittent fasting. And we've been doing this cleansing or intermittent fasting for the last 12 years personally. But it's been around for thousands and thousands of years, isn't it? It's been this
absolutely
beautiful, almost like ceremony, this ritual that people do. And so
But it freaks a lot of people out in North America. It absolutely freaks people out, right? So
Yeah,
well, I think, you know, a lot of times people get freaked out. Well, when we ask them, you know, what scares them the most, it's just the idea of they feel like they're going to be starving themselves. Plus, the other argument that we hear is, well, my organs are supposed to cleanse and detox. It does it for me. I don't have to do anything. And my response to that is, you're right. Like we are blessed to have amazing organs that it's just naturally designed to do that. So this is to support those organs. How can I support the machines that are doing a great job become more efficient and be able, you know, to remove some of the stress that they're undergoing right now? Because our environments, let's face it, we're not getting cleaner. Like our environments are getting more toxic, more industry. Right? The air we breathe, the water we drink, there's just more of it. So when you agree that we want to be able to support our body's cleansing and detox, natural detox system, and that's sort of another area of focus. And there's lots of ways to do that. Sorry if our dinger is...
We're digging.
Not to worry. It's a great segue for Ona Momento, and we will come back to this part of the conversation because it's important, but it's a great time to do a station identification. Hey, everybody, if you have just tuned in, you have tuned into Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. What a fabulous, fabulous day to tune in, because today we're learning all about taking care of ourselves and the 5 steps that we might want to consider to make that transition an easier one than perhaps we've ever thought of it to be before. So in the booth, in the Zoom booth, so again, Zoom, we know that there's going to be interruptions. There's going to be dogs barking. There's going to be mailmen going by. There's going to be phone dings. It's all good. Shawn, Owen, and Kari-Lyn Owen are here to help us not notice those distractions by sharing great information, and we're glad that they're here. Thanks again for tuning in to CHLY 101.7 and Act 3. So you guys, yes, I hear what you're saying about fasting. Fasting has been part of many religious connotations as well, and been part of ceremonial, annual, yearly events that people often do. And so for some people, it's part of a blessing, part of a celebratory thing. For others, it's really, again, I think it all stems back to mindset, is that it's about depriving oneself. I personally love fasting. I don't do it very often. However, I'm ready for a fast coming up, because I think that what you said earlier about, you know, all of the chemicals and stuff in the air, all the toxins that are in there, all the stuff that's around in our water and our food and all of that. What I know for sure is that sometimes your body just needs a break. It needs a break from working it. It's constantly processing nutrients. It's constantly processing crap. It's constantly processing something. And so every now and then, I think, like every other part of us, mental health, we need a vacation sometimes, right? So the idea of having a fast doesn't mean that you don't eat. It means that in some cases you don't eat, but I think that yes, in all cases you don't eat for a period of time, but there's something else that goes with that. There's the liquid or whatever it is you put in your body is designed to help restore and kind of spa like your intestines, I guess. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I would say that, you know, no matter what, I think that people, you know, we probably understood the benefits of fasting, whether it be a religious connotation or otherwise, again, for centuries, right? There was a body response to it, and it is a break, and it is a time to reset, and it is a time to restore. And if we look physically at the benefits of it, it's amazing. And intermittent fasting can be done all kinds of different ways. It can be done with no food. We choose nutritional support. So like we will fast, but we'll have a nutritional tonic again that's made up of some of those adaptogens. It's made up of the heart of the aloe vera. I mean, think of aloe vera. It's a soothing, right? Like it's inside your body to heal and restore and support the liver and naturally detoxifying the body. Studies will show that the optimal, like this is the important piece when you look at the optimal benefits physically, okay, not spiritually, but physically from the results of a fast or intermittent fasting is 24 to 48 hours. So when you're in the 24 to 48 hour window, you're going to get the maximum benefits from your fast. And what happens in that time is you boost your immune system tremendously, and you increase what we naturally produce in our body, human growth hormone, naturally increase our production of that, which is amazing, right? Especially as we age, because as we age, we create less and less of that. Yep. What happens when we don't create that? We lose lean muscle body mass, and we lose bone density, right? So there's things that are really important as we get old. So if you can imagine going through this process, it's very, very healthy, no matter how you do it. Ding, ding. That's correct. Right on cue. So,
star, darling, gold star.
and like I shared last week, we look at our body as a vehicle, like an engine, a machine, right? We want to clean our machine out. Would we ever consider not cleaning our car? Would we ever consider not cleaning our pool? Would we ever consider not brushing our teeth? Yeah. We'd never not consider that. But in 38 years of my life, I had never considered cleansing the inside of my body. I just didn't understand the concept at all. So intermittent fasting, again, very shishi, very available on the internet. So do some research. Our belief is to nutritionally support it, but there are other programs out there. Whatever you choose to do, there's going to be benefits to it. And then, well, I guess we can get into 4, unless you have anything to add to that.
No, I'm ready to move on to 4.
All right, so 4 is one of my favorites because it's so easy to do, and it's a concept that us North Americans have completely wrong, right? So our normal way of eating is a tiny breakfast, right? And lots of times I remember skipping breakfast because, again, I was conscious of my body weight. I thought reducing calories was going to be really smart, which it wasn't, right? It had the reverse effect. Have a little lunch, and then we have a massive dinner. So we take in most of what is the most important piece of the puzzle, which is protein. And to pace our protein throughout the day, as opposed to having a massive bit of protein or a largest supply of protein at dinner and not throughout the day. So we sit on this big protein. So the idea is to take protein throughout the day at regular intervals, as opposed to all at once, right? It really likes, like, when I'm on point, it'll just give me a ding. So this is,
sorry, we could.
It totally does. It's like the universe is going, yes, ding. It's fabulous.
It's on my computer, so I can't even access it.
No, again, if you just tuned in, you're listening to a Zoom recording. It's how it goes. We had dogs barking earlier. It's part of the charm. All is well.
So,
but I do like how I do appreciate how it naturally seems to dig.
Yeah,
right?
it likes certain answers. Yeah, it likes certain answers. Do you want to share a little bit about the protein pacing, though? I know that's one of the things that no matter what our customers will do, if they can manage this one piece, it has amazing benefits, and it really helps create the right environment for the body.
Well, I think kind of what you said, just eating the way that the schedule that you were talking about is just that, small meals throughout the day and then our larger meal at night. And that's typically in our Western society where we eat the largest portion of our protein, and then it's right before we go to bed and things like that. So we end up trying to digest and store a lot of that. But the idea is actually to be able to pace this protein out throughout the day. So 20 to 40 grams of protein throughout the day, and maybe, maybe it's going to be 4 or 5 smaller meals throughout. And even if it's
sorry to interrupt you, but let's talk about that protein piece, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are following keto. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of protein that's in keto. Personally, it does not work for me. It has been nothing but damaging for my body. It is not a happy camper on keto at all. Mm-hmm. However, I just want to talk about the differences in protein and what is a size appropriateness of protein, because it's great to have 4 or 5 pieces of protein a day, but does that mean someone's eating 5 steaks a day? I don't think so. Right? So,
yeah, well, jump in. You're super passionate about that as well. Go.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm not here to knock any one diet. It doesn't matter. What we're talking about is protein pacing, and that doesn't mean high protein, low sugar. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means, or no carbs or any of that. It means what we're doing is we're balancing our protein throughout the day. So 4 to 6 meals a day, 2 to 3 hours apart. And the protein, the body can only assimilate or use between 20 and 40 grams of protein in any one serving. 20 to 40 grams. Not all proteins are created equal. We always look at the digestibility of protein. Way back, I can't say the exact time, but friends of ours, Dr. Michael Colgan, he's actually one of the renowned world experts in protein utilization, especially as it comes down to sport performance. And we know that the gold standard used to be the egg. And they would measure everything on the digestibility of the egg as a protein. It was the purest, most bioavailable protein available. So it would be, say, 100, and then other meat proteins would follow suit. We know that fish and chicken and, like they're a little higher, and then beef would be a little lower, and, bison, so they kind of measure it down there. And plant proteins. So all of them will have a scale, and all of them are good, but, the measure will be between 20 and 40 grams. And we know now we're in the world of the protein shake, right? Why are we all taking protein shakes? And that, again, is because we understand that the digestibility of taking in this protein is very available. And the new gold standard is actually a whey protein, like an undenatured, so not cooked. Undenatured is really important because it means it's uncooked. When you cook a whey-based protein, then that's one coming from dairy. It's not as impactful for like a dairy-free, for people who are taking dairy-free protein shakes. That when it's undenatured, it means it's not cooked out and it's not broken apart. Because whenever you denature or break apart something, it loses its nutritional value. So you want to always have a raw form. Our friends are going to absolutely get it when we get later.
It's probably them dinging in right now. They're reading the idea that the show's on.
Yeah, it's a party of two right now. So so anyway, so when we look at this protein, it's about taking that protein the best way possible. And I would just encourage, there's a lot of, the marketing companies have caught on to this, and we hear we see our boosts and we see our insurers, and, you just want to make sure, like, it's becoming very popular again, very easy. Do your homework, make sure that you're getting a great source of protein, make sure that the sugars aren't super high, make sure they're not artificial sugars, make sure that you're getting your vitamins, minerals, and trace minerals. But whatever you do, we always coach, like if people will say, oh, just have some carrots and celery sticks. Okay, your turn. Okay, great. But what if you could have—
I don't like carrots or celery sticks.
But let's say that you say you're choosing that. How about you do that with some hummus? Because hummus is going to give you a bit of protein. How about having a hard-boiled egg? That's a good protein snack. How about if you're
nut butter or something that gives you the healthy fats along with the protein? And this isn't, we're talking about balanced protein as well. So when you talk protein shakes, one thing I want to just specify, we do a meal replacement that is a broken down, it's like not just protein. So our body needs to have carbs. Our body needs a certain amount of sugars. So we don't personally just do like a protein and just have 20 grams of protein, but we're talking balance. What can I have along with this protein, as opposed to those quick snacks that are carb based, reaching for the bag of Doritos, or just what are those easy fixes you look through. And we talked about the middle aisles of the grocery store, how everything is just carb based. So flip it around to just be aware of adding some great quality, and it doesn't have to be animal protein. It can be a perfect balance. You can find some really beautiful plant-based proteins, if that's more suitable for your body. But find the protein, highest quality protein, and stretch it out through small meals throughout the day, to be able to give you your best results, instead of just piling it all at the end of the night for like your big dinner meal or something.
And I think what's in it for me, like if I do this, what's the benefit? Again, we're looking at if we can balance that protein throughout the day. What do we want? We want our immune system to be boosted, and it does that. So it boosts your immune system. Guess what else it does? It increases your metabolism. If you increase your metabolism, that's our inner furnace that burns the calories. Wow. So again, we find success by people eating more regularly throughout the day instead of 3 big meals, adding a little bit of protein with whatever they're doing in between, and then the furnace or the metabolism starts to kick up and we start to use the fuel better. And then the last thing is it increases our lean muscle body mass. Again, our listeners out there are probably at an age like us where we start to, if we're not really being conscious of this, losing that lean muscle body mass, losing the bone density and all the rest of it. So we really want to be conscious of always doing things to help that area.
Fabulous information so far, you guys. And now I'm sitting with bated breath at number 5. What's our 5th?
Well, I mean, the 5th one is an easy one. And I think that this is the piece that brings it all together. And it's actually not about nutrition, it's about lifestyle. And it's convenience. And the thing about any program is that I find is the harder and more complicated it is, the less chance I'm going to have to incorporate it and having success with it. So for us, you know, what worked for us is that all of what we talked about, we do within how we work with our customers. So we have all of those points available within our programs that we utilize ourselves. It's not to say though that you can't get those things other places, but I find in working with customers is that if I was to, like the old adage where I would meal plan, I would give somebody a meal plan, I'd tell them to go to the grocery store, buy all of this stuff, Sunday night meal prep it out, you know, like go to the Chinese medicine store to do this and go over here to do that, because you absolutely can.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. And some people enjoy doing it that way because they're very comfortable with, you know, they have the time.
Yeah.
So many of us simply just don't have the time. Many people are working 2-3 jobs. They just want to come home and have it done. There's just no, you know, the stress level, just which we keep talking about. We keep going back to that. The stress level of trying to put it all together is maddening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, where do we get our healthy snacks? Where do we get the stress management component of our system? Where do we help boost our immune system? Where do we get the right nutrition, you know, the nutrient density? How do we, you know, find ways to support our intermittent fasting? All of these things that we've talked about, how do we get that in a way where we can actually incorporate it into our bodies?
Well, I think it cuts the confusion as well, right? So people who are looking and they're like, okay, these are really great points. And, you know, and they can go through and tick the boxes. Does my nutritional program do this? Or if I were to shop and try to find everything, does it do that? But what we found for people to stick with it in maybe a busy life, you know, they have a busy life happening and they're managing their stress and well-being as well. It's like, what can we offer that's convenient and cuts through the confusion of what do I do? Is it keto? Is it paleo? Am I vegan? Am I flexitarian? That's my new favorite word. I love it.
Sorry, I haven't heard that term. What's a flexitarian? I'll tell you the word
like,
right now.
Anything goes, baby.
Anything goes.
I don't know the exact definition, but
I happen to like it. I think it's
I like
verb. I'm a flexitarian.
Right? You
should feel that. That's my new buzzword. I think I love it.
Isn't that powerful? So I don't know. I love it. So, and I'm sure there's somebody listening that has the exact definition, but you know, maybe there's times that my body, it chooses to eat fish for a while or white meat, or maybe it chooses to be vegan for a while. Like, but I know what's best for my body because it's, I know how I'm feeling. And so that's going to be my guiding principle, right? So, but what we're finding is when we can provide a convenient, this is the new fast food. Like it ticks all boxes, and I don't have to go through a drive-through to hit that craving, you know, of, oh my gosh, I'm like feast or famine. I got to just eat something quick because I'm starving. We set people up for success and we give them the nutrient density. We give them, you know, the fasting, the cleansing tonic so that they can flood their bodies. And it's the foundations of our building blocks, like our cellular at a foundational level. It just helps to build us up stronger, healthier, more vibrant in a convenience. Like here it is, sort of, here's a boat.
If I called you tomorrow, or any of our listeners called to you tomorrow, what could we expect?
I think for us, what we do is like, because everybody's unique, we basically want to find out what people are working towards, you know, what's most important to them. So we spend, you know, around 30 minutes just having a conversation to see, one, what they're looking to accomplish and whether or not there's something that we can do to help. And whether or not there is something that we can do to help, we can always give them some of the structures that we've chatted about today to set them off and help them create success their own way. For others, there might be a fit for us to be able to work with them personally within what we use and what we use with our customers. And that's totally okay as well. But before we do anything, we always spend about 30 minutes on a consult just to like find out more about their unique wishes and whether or not it's a fit for us all to work together.
Yeah, and through some of their experiences, if there's any gaps that have missed, like they've been missing, or things that haven't worked for them in the past. So we do a bit of a personal analysis, and it's totally customized to them and who we're working with. And then in the end, like Shawn said, you know, they'll decide if it's a fit for them and they want to move in one direction, but they're always going to be able to leave the conversation with something of value, something tangible that they can go off and they can choose to, you know, maybe just create some awareness in their life of some points of balance that they might need, you know, if something's at a scale. So we really love, you know, whatever people decide, that's totally great. We just are a stand for healthy living, healthy lifestyles, and creating healthy families, really, because when our families, you know, we create those healthy families, it ripples out into the community and out into the world. Yeah.
Taking a big deep breath. For 2 shows, we have had the privilege of talking to you and learning about self-care. And I think that for me, when I hear you guys talk, you guys you give me the impression that your desire for community is to help people, make people matter, or to help people recognize that they do matter and they matter enough to take good care of themselves. How do people reach you? Because we did ask them early on in the show to grab a piece of paper and a pen. How do people find you?
Well, you can find us on our website, and I know it's www.chipsy.
That's right. I forgot. It was the Chipsy thing that made me giggle.
Yeah, so www.
From our last show. Chipsy.
Chipsy, CHIPSY, and Lulu, LULU.com. So chipsyandlulu.com. And were you going to just jump in? You did the.
I was just going to say
pool.
Just that, to speak to that one piece. This is about balance. So my nickname, when we travel to Australia quite a bit, and everybody there gets nicknames. Mine is Chipsy because I have a bit of a chip addiction. So we talk about balance. I'm super healthy, but I'm the one with the shopping cart full of bags of chips because their flavors are new and unique, and I can't decide. So they nicknamed me Chipsy, and I absolutely love chips. And then
great name.
Shawn,
so I get Lulu. As in Australia, Lorna Jane is a really popular activewear company that's for women, and it's now in North America as well. So Lululemon, I was wearing a Lululemon shirt, and you know, my friends thought that I was wearing. I got a kick out of that because they thought it was girls' clothes, so they named me Lulu, and so it's.
I thought it was girls' clothes too, so that's good to know that there's a men's line.
There is,
and it doesn't even matter, by the way. We wear what we're comfortable in.
Doesn't even matter. So
Absolutely.
chipsyandlulu.com. Email, you can get a hold of us at Elevate Your Life, which we want to elevate. So it's ELEV, the number 8. So Elevate Your Life at shaw.ca. And I think that's that.
Yeah,
right?
that's that. That's so wonderful. As we're coming towards the end of the program, I can't believe that our second show is almost done. I'm gobsmacked. But before we go this time, because last time we just didn't have the time to do it, we're going to talk about the life lessons. If you could imbibe on our community something really that's impactful for you, that really drives your vision, what might that be? And whoever wants to go first, jump on in.
Ooh, drives the vision. You know, the first thing that comes to mind for me, Kathy, and I don't know if it hits it directly on the head, but I'll just jump in. That first intuitive feeling that I had is like, there's a lot of confusion out there, and maybe there's a lot of fear or worry or anxiety or stress. And so for me, it's just like, just to center, to calm, to be present, because we know intuitively, like our body, we know. And so find that place that will give you that bit of solstice. Is that the word that I want to use? But
Yeah, just use it.
I'm going to use it. But like if it's in nature,
Great word.
if it's by the ocean, if it's like that, we used to joke, we just need 5 free minutes to ourselves. There's a Spirit of the West song about that. But that was like, because that when I center myself, that's where my visions and my wishes and my dreams and my purpose and my all-knowing comes from. And so it's that connecting with self. And I find when I get into my busy, chaotic, like I'm scrambling, I disconnect from that. And then that's where it kind of, I can be led astray sometimes, where I forget, you know, the direction I'm going. And so for me, I'm just going to throw that out to people with, you know, find that calmness, that space of peacefulness in what can sometimes be a crazy, chaotic world. and just have a certainty about, what you have within you, and you have everything. We have everything we need within us to be able to thrive and be successful in our life. So, center with self, and then surround ourselves with that support, a supportful environment, community, to move us in the direction that we want, that will support our dreams and our goals.
And I think for me, it would be just to challenge everybody to themselves, challenge the status quo. I think that I'm hoping we're amidst a wellness revolution, meaning that we're looking to food to be our medicine, as opposed to our medicine being where we're at. Like, I think of like our parents' generation that tell us that they can't have foods with vitamin C in it because it's going to counteract their medicine. To me, it just is not logical. I know it's the truth, but there's
for some things, yeah, for sure.
There's something wrong out there. There's something happening. And I think if we look to food to be our medicine, I think that's going to be a good trend over time. And I would just finish with saying that this isn't a practice run for any of us.
Yes.
So to make the most of it and to live your life like it's the life we have. And how do you want that to look? Because we take 100% accountability and responsibility for how it looks right now. And it's never too late to make a shift in the direction, because any small shift over time can make a massive difference. So
absolutely. I have shivers. I love what you guys just said. It's just amazing. And you're right. This is, this may not be our first rodeo, but it will be our last. So we have to make sure that we're having a really good time in the process and taking good care of ourselves. Can you shout out your information one last time?
All right, your turn.
Okay, so ChipsyandLulu.com, Chipsy, CHIPSY, and Lulu, LULU.com is our website where you can find us. And please reach out by email if you feel that works best for you. And that's Elevate Your Life, with a little trick in the elevate. That's ELEV with the number 8, your life, at shaw.ca.
Thank you so much, you guys. You have been listening to CHLY 101.7 Act 3. Our guests in the Zoom booth were Shawn and Kari-Lyn Owen. I don't know about you guys, but I feel elevated already. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys, for just such a wonderful bunch of advice. Great information. It was a privilege to have you twice in a row. If you want to see this again, if you want to hear this again, make sure you join us on YouTube. Just join Act 3 Media Productions. And don't forget to watch for us on Shaw. We are coming under Act 3. The show is almost done. It's just about ready. We're going to be airing it very, very soon. And of course, don't forget to tune into the show on Shaw. We appreciate you tuning in today. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.